Okay, so welcome to our acu-connect webinar for June. I'm so excited that you were able to join us this month. We're always trying to bring you educational, informational content here at acu-connect. And so this month we have Netstock and Rockton Software joining us to talk about unlocking the secrets to profitability, mastering inventory optimization, and price management. So we're very excited to have them here today. We'll do a quick agenda before we get started. If I can, there we go. So my name is Amy Keenan. I am one of the acu-connect webinar and event committee members, as well as I'm on the board. And we have, like I said, we have Netstock here and Rockton here to present to you today. We will have some Q&A time available at the end of our session. So feel free to put your questions in the chat so we can get to those. And we'll also talk a little bit about our upcoming events at the end as well. So this is being recorded. We will be sending out a recording to everyone that registers and or attends. So in case you want to share it with others on your team. And now I will hand it over to Tom from Netstock to take it away.
Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Hey, so let me just take 1 second and make sure I'm going to share my screen. But let me just confirm that you see that. It should say Netstock on.
Looks good.
Okay, great. Hey, thanks.
You're
So,
welcome.
hey, everybody. So my name is Tom Wilson. I am a solution consultant for Netstock, and it's my pleasure to speak with you today. I'm going to talk about inventory optimization, what some of the inventory planning challenges are, and this is not going to be a demonstration of our software. I do have a couple of slides, though, just to illustrate a few concepts. But again, we specialize in inventory planning and optimization. So what is that all about? I mean, what's the root cause for that? And what we talk to our customers every day, and what they tell us is that the inventory challenges that we hear repeatedly from our customers are that we tend to stock out of inventory. And that results in poor customer service, lost sales, and disrupted production. But on the other side of the coin, we also hear that other items we tend to overstock and end up with a lot of excess inventory, which ties up working capital. And in a time of high interest rates where money is hard to get and credit is hard to get, it's important to free up that money, that working capital from your own company. And then finally, planners spend way too much time trying to figure out what the right stocking levels are. And typically they do that with spreadsheets that are time consuming, hard to maintain, and inaccurate. And then finally, at the end of the day, it's pretty hard to determine what your right inventory stocking levels should be unless you can project the demand for those items. And forecasting is hard, and it's not easy to do in a spreadsheet. And so having a very robust system that automatically collects the sales history, automatically puts it through a forecasting engine that picks the right forecasting model is paramount. And I'll illustrate that very briefly in a couple of screenshots of our software. But these problems often stem from strategic and tactical planning. Now, strategically, management in most companies is not always connected. Sales, as an example, they want to hold as much stock as possible. They don't ever want to stock out of an item. When an order comes in, they want to make sure that they've got plenty of inventory to cover that order. Because if they stock out, then they tend to potentially lose that sale. A customer might go to a competitor and buy it from another source. And so they're more interested in overstocking than potentially stocking out. Whereas on the finance side, they tend to push or hold less inventory. And the reason is they want to keep that excess down. They want to free up that working capital, just like I talked about momentarily. And then on the operations side, somebody's job is to try to figure out a balance between those two perspectives. And it often tends to fall on operations. And it's not always clear what goals that they're trying to find, and they're trying to find that balance. And it's a very difficult job. So financially, you need a strategy that identifies each item's importance and velocity to the business. And from a marketing perspective, you need a replenishment policy that invests more in items that contribute higher value and replenishes more frequently for items that turn faster. This needs to be dynamically adjusted based on risks that suppliers don't always deliver on time or don't deliver the correct quantities, and that customers don't always buy what you forecasted. So without a policy, that models that allows you to model based on risk, it's impossible to understand the appropriate level of stock you need to hold to support a desired strategic sales plan. Now, how do you create a replenishment plan that satisfies both finance and sales and ensure that operations merely executes the plan and doesn't have to be the coordinator to resolve that conflict? And a fundamental tenet is to identify each item's contribution and map it to replenishment policies. So I am going to show at this point one screen from the Netstock solution, because this is one of the fundamental industry best practices that we have in our software. And that is exactly that. Not all items contribute the same to your business. Some items contribute greater in value. Other items contribute greater in inventory turns or volume. So by loading data from an ERP source, and then based on rules that you set up in our software, we are able to rank every item based on its value to your business as either an A, B, or a C item. And that's represented in this chart based on the rows. So your top rows are your A items, the middle rows are your B items, and the bottom row are your C items. And it really comes down to a fundamental tenet where most items, there's usually an 80-20 rule, where 20% of the items are generating 80% of the value. And those are the kinds of rules that you apply to an A item. But then what we're going to do is we're going to map policies, inventory investment policies, to those rankings. So for instance, the A items, the items in the upper right, those items in the green boxes, you're going to want to set a more aggressive target fill rate. And what that is when you need an item, did you have it in stock? Did you anticipate it, given demand, given lead time, and have it in stock? And what we're targeting for those higher value items is a very aggressive target fill rate. You don't want to run out of those items that are high turning. But if you look at the bottom left corner where it's L, that's a C item that's low turning. Now, not that you want to run out of those items, but you just can't afford to spend quite as much money investing in that inventory. And so you set a little lower fill rate. And then the same thing on the replenishment cycle. For those higher volume, higher turning items, typically you want to place smaller, more frequent orders. Whereas a C item that's low turning, maybe you want to place an order every 4, 5, 6 months and just be done with it. You can set different policies, but what you can do is you can run some simulations. So in the bottom right corner, you can see the results of those policies. And right now we can see that our target fill rate is 96%, but we're only achieving an 87% fill rate. So we've got some work to do. But what I can do is I can go in and change some of those policies. Maybe I want to put a 90% target fill rate on all of my items. But what would that do to my overall fill rate goals, objectives? But more importantly, what would that do to my investment in inventory? So you can see what different policies impact it has on overall fill rate and on the investment. And so that's a very strategic tool for both marketing and sales to use for planning purposes. Now, on the tactical side, however, what we find is companies don't always have the correct tools to plan inventory. Now, when you think about inventory from any ERP system, ERP does a fantastic job from an inventory perspective, keeping track of what's currently in stock, what are your stocking locations, what's in stock at each of those locations, are there any open purchase orders, are there open work orders, what are your bill of materials if you're doing any manufacturing or kitting. It keeps track of thousands of transactions, hundreds of details from pricing, costing, vendors, and everything in between. And you need a system to keep track of that much detail about your inventory, and ERP does a fantastic job with that. But most ERP systems do not answer the question, is that what should be in stock? Given demand, given lead time, given supplier performance against that lead time, what should you be stocking? When should you place replenishment orders on those suppliers? And most of our customers have to make those decisions outside of ERP. And more often than not, it's in some kind of a manual process or a spreadsheet. And that's a daunting task. Again, it's time consuming and it's rife with errors. That is where our customers tend to overstock and end up with excess inventory. That tends to be where we stock out and we end up with not enough inventory, potential lost sales. And again, we just spend way too much time. And that's what the Netstock solution brings to the table. First and foremost, we don't replace anything from ERP. In fact, all of the information on the right in the ERP side, that serves as input to our planning engine. We need to know what is currently in stock. What are your stocking locations? Are there any open purchase orders? Are there any open work orders? Who are your suppliers? What are the lead times? We need to know that as information to the planning process. But what we're going to do with that information is we're going to run it through those strategic policies. What are your replenishment policies, given the value of the item, given the risks that the item may not deliver on time? And so doing that, we are going to give you greater visibility to your inventory, and we're going to recommend the optimal inventory stocking levels. And so the way it works is we need that data as input, but our solution is a cloud delivered service. So we will set up your instance of Netstock on a Netstock server. We'll set up a connector through the internet to your ERP server. Now, the purpose of that is so that we can connect and upload that data we need as input. Now, that connection is highly secure. The data is encrypted. There's keys on both ends. Your instance of Netstock is unique to you. Only you have access to it. But typically, we'll set up an automatic job that runs once a day. And once a day, we'll connect to your ERP to upload that data. And the reason that we do it once a day is this is the planning tool. We need the transactional data as input, but most of our customers plan in a 24-hour window. If you needed to refresh more frequently, you certainly could. But we're going to load that data into your instance of Netstock, takes about 10 minutes, and then we'll disconnect from the ERP server. Then all of that data will go into your instance of Netstock, where it'll go through a series of analytics and calculations, but all done on the Netstock server. So this has no impact to ERP. And then our customers will be able to log in as a browser user where they will be presented planning recommendations. So what it's designed to do then, and this is true for inventory optimization and planning tools, is first and foremost, it's going to increase the visibility to your inventory. It's going to show you for every item at every location what your current inventory is, and then it's going to recommend what your inventory should be. And in reconciling that, it's going to show you any items you have too much of, any items you don't have enough of, and any items that you need to place orders on. So it's going to increase the visibility to your inventory and where you have challenges and problems. And in doing so, it's going to improve your fill rate, which means you've anticipated what items you need in advance and you've planned for those, and you have those in stock when you need them. And what most of our customers have told us when they turn on a planning tool like this is that of their existing inventory, typically 15% of that inventory is in some kind of a stocked out status. You're out of an item or about to run out of an item that could impact customer service or sales. Roughly 35% of existing inventory is in some kind of a excess status where you have more than you need and money tied up in working capital. And roughly half to 70% of a planner's time is not necessarily spent making planning decisions, but spent pulling together data, downloading data, running reports, maintaining spreadsheets so that you can make planning decisions. So this will not replace the knowledge or the expertise that you have in your business, but it will replace those manual tools, reports, and spreadsheets with something much more robust and automated. So you can spend your valuable time being presented with the items that need your attention and the information you need to address it. And then finally, it's pretty hard to determine what your stocking levels should be unless you have a projection or forecast of your demand. And so that's a fundamental tenet of any planning tool, is to have a robust forecast engine. So with that, I'm just going to show you a couple of screenshot highlights just to show you some of the capabilities of the tool. Now, because it is a cloud-delivered service, you simply log on as a browser user. This particular screen is logged on with Chrome. But we have already connected to an ERP system. We've already uploaded that transactional data. We know what are the stocking locations. We know what's currently in stock. And the idea of the dashboard that you're seeing here is to bring to your attention where you have problems. And just real quickly, it's laid out in several panels. The panel on the upper left, well, actually, let me point to it, where it says stock holding. That's simply showing you that in the Los Angeles stocking location, you are currently carrying $10.3 million, according to your ERP. And that could be finished goods, raw materials. But the planning tool is recommending you should be carrying 4.9. That would be the optimal inventory, given demand for the items, given lead time from your suppliers. That would be the optimal inventory to fulfill your demand. So with just a quick glance, I can see I've got quite a bit more inventory at this location than the planning tool is recommending. In fact, if I slide over to the next panel, you have some excess stock at this location, which is defined as inventory above the maximum recommended stocking levels. And right now there are over 2,000 items that are currently in excess, and the value of that excess inventory is costing your business $3.6 million. I can see all 2,200 items, but on the dashboard, we're simply trying to bring to your attention which 5 items have the biggest impact to your bottom line. These 5 items alone are costing you $260,000 in excess inventory. Over or almost 10% of this problem is not 2,000 items, it's these 5. So these would be the 5 items we highly recommend you pay some attention to. And then over to the right, a little more proactive heads up. Here are some orders in ERP. They could be purchase orders for supplied items, work orders for manufactured items, but there are orders in ERP. In fact, there are 499 in Los Angeles. And when those orders arrive, they're going to add to your excess problem. They're going to exacerbate that excess problem by an additional 2.5 million. So we're going to bring to your attention where you have too much inventory, focused on the ones that have the biggest impact to your business. And then below that, we're going to look at the opposite side of the coin. Are there any items you don't have enough of? And right now, there's some items you're out of, completely stocked out. In fact, there are 967 items with no inventory, but there's demand on those items that you can't fulfill until you replenish. And until you do, you're putting 658,000 of sales at risk. Doesn't mean you're going to lose a sale, but you're certainly at risk. And finally, again, I can look at all those 1,000 items that are currently stocked out. But here are the 5 that are putting you at the most risk. These 5 items alone are putting you at a potential stock or lost sales of 236,000. Over a third of that problem is not 1,000 items. It's these 5. So here would be 5 items we highly recommend you pay some attention to. These are candidates to maybe expedite an order, move an item from one location to another, but you need to take some proactive action. And then finally, here's some items you're about to stock out of. And if you do take some proactive action, you can solve it before it becomes a full stock out. But the idea is to show you where you have too much inventory, where you don't have enough, which items need your attention the most right now, and you don't have to figure that out. And then finally, if I drill into an item, just again, we'll just go through this very quickly. We're going to look at some of those risks. First, we're going to generate a forecast, and then we're going to look at what is the risk that the supplier is going to deliver this item on time. Do they deliver on time? Do they deliver the right quantity? And we're going to use that information to recommend a minimum stocking level, reorder point, and maximum stocking level for every item. Now, for this item, we're also going to compare it to what your current inventory is. And if you notice, you have 456 units in stock. The most we recommend is 337, so you're in an excess position, which is a problem. But for this item, you've got an open purchase order for 555 units that's going to exacerbate that excess problem. So here's an example of, hey, heads up, here are some orders, purchase orders, that you might want to cancel or get rid of before they become physical excess inventory. And we do this for every item, looking at the item's contribution to the business, looking at the risk that the supplier performs on time, the risk that our forecast is accurate. And then one final thing is, if a problem is brought to your attention, we're going to identify which items need your attention the most, which have the biggest impact to the business. But at the end of the day, you've got to do something about it. And one of the things we've just rolled out, if I come over here where it says opportunity, we've just rolled out our first entry into artificial intelligence. And so that is, we're going to take it one step further, and we're going to look at the item. We're going to look at what's in stock at other locations. We're going to look at the problem and actually give you some suggestions on what you need to do to fix that. And with these kinds of tools, and this is only the infancy of our artificial intelligence, we're going to continue to roll this out. But what most of our customers have told us is they absolutely reduce their excess inventory. They eliminate stockouts, which will improve customer service. And here's just one testimonial from a customer called Mineral Index Limited. And they were just identifying that they did, in fact, reduce their excess inventory by 35%, which means you freed up all of that working capital. And now you can use that money for other things. And we've improved our fill rates because we're not doing stockouts, and that improved by 3%. And what impact does that have on your overall increase of sales? So by reducing stockouts, eliminating excess inventory, you free up that working capital and improve customer service and sales. And that's the goal. What is the optimal inventory you should be stocking? And that's just very difficult to do, and you need the right strategies and you need the right tools to do it. So with that, let me stop. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over. I'm going to stop my sharing my screen, and I'll sit tight in case we have some questions towards the end.
Thanks, Tom. And Mark, take it away.
All right. I guess I'm up next. Moment as I share my screen here. All right, in true fashion, I'm having difficulty sharing my screen. So bear with me just one more minute here. Another great demo day.
It's not
All right,
technology if you don't have a lot of hiccups.
for sure. I believe I am sharing my screen now.
Not yet. Now you are.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Take it away.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much. Patience there. Hi, I'm Mark Rockwell. I am with Rockton Software, and we're here to talk about Rockton Software and our pricing management product. First off, we've been around about 23, 24 years, somewhere around there, developing ERP add-ons. And in case you're wondering, I'm the big bald guy in the picture there. My last name is Rockwell, and yes, the company is called Rockton, and there is a similarity there. That's because the other half of Rockton is my life partner, Kelly Sexton. She's the CEO. And we took our last names, Sexton and Rockwell, and combined them to create Rockton Software because nobody's looking for pricing management solutions at sexwell.com. So I am the chief, or one of the owners, and I'm also the architect of Rockton Pricing Management. This has grown out of a product we had called OmniPrice for the last 20 years, and we try to make pricing simpler and easier. So let's get on with some pricing challenges that we have run into from different customers. In ERP systems, a lot of people get stuck with a single price list, and just that with their pricing, they get one price list. They can't have multiple versions going at any one time, and that can be really frustrating. We ask, why can't we have more than one price list that we can point to different ones at different times? Date-driven pricing can be a real issue as well. It's very frustrating when you have pricing set up, say if you are on an annual basis and you raise your prices once per year, is that sometimes you have to stay up on December 31st instead of having a New Year's Eve party as you're plugging in your pricing for January 1st to kick in right away. And we think that's kind of a silly thing to have to do. And if you change your pricing once a week or once a day, it can be even worse. We get asked a lot about promotions that are expire after a certain time period. If you want to run a promotion that's just good for a week or just good during the Christmas holiday season, it's nice to have those promotions roll in and roll out in a very specific time. And if you're having a promotion, it'd be nice to track how much money are we spending or giving away on that promotion. It'd be nice to tally those amounts of discounts that we're offering on those as well. We get asked about minimums and maximums or setting a floor level. When you're doing a price, if you offer a certain amount of discounts or a combination of discounts, it would be nice if we had a floor so we never exceed that minimum. And a lot of people ask about historical pricing. What happens with pricing in the past? Where did it go, or what was the price 5 years ago? And we have the ability, of course, to handle all these problems and more. Some more problems with pricing. We find that a ton of people are doing their pricing inside of Excel. If there's any complication to it at all, you got a bunch of Excel jockeys out there just adding up numbers, doing all kinds of calculations. And with those specific people managing that, that information is generally in their head about how they do that and what they do. And unfortunately, that because the information about your ERP and especially your pricing information is in Excel, it's really easy for those Excel documents to wander off or be shared outside. They have no security, they have no auditing, and they have no backup. So who has the data? And when you import and export this information in and out of Excel, as some of our customers do before they get RPM, they just are in import and export hell, just constantly moving data back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And we ask, why? There's got to be some easier ways. Almost every ERP we've ever run into has a limit of one and only one discount. And we find that there's often times where you want to do a multiple discount. Sometimes you want to discount based on a loyalty level of a customer, but you also want to run a promotion and you want both those discounts to apply. That can be troublesome in most ERP systems. And we also found that this one is very specific to Acumatica, is that if you have a list of 10,000 items and you want to change just one item on that, you have to republish that list. You copy all 10,000 items over, you change the price on one, and then you republish just that one list. We ask, why can't you just change the one? And let's just focus on that. We run into situations where people are asking, hey, effectively with my inventory, I've got t-shirts and they come in like 5 different sizes, 7 different colors. There's 35 different t-shirts, 35 different item numbers, but they all have the same price. So wouldn't it be nice to set the price one time instead of 35 times? It's 3% of the effort in order to manage those prices. Wouldn't that be nice? Here's a very common one where you want to give discounts based on the loyalty of your customers. If they're at the gold level, 20%, down to bronze at 10%. Or if you want to figure out your gross margin, how much profit you want to make on a given item based on cost. So you can have different tier levels that you assign your customers and make their the gross margin that you calculate compute to be the price that you charge those customers for certain items. Rebates, especially in the food distribution industry and others. This also happens in mechanical like HVAC stuff. I am baffled to this day why these industries work this way, but it is very typical that a company will buy something from a vendor for $100, and then they will turn around and sell it to a customer for $95, and that's obviously at a complete loss. So why they do that, I don't really know, but the industries work that way, and we just nod our head politely and say, well, you could do it differently, but nope, they don't want to. And then what you do is you turn around, you collect $10 back from the vendor to cover that loss. And why you can't do that up front, again, I don't know. But as you can imagine, if you charge the customer $95 and you never go back and track the rebate that you're due from the vendor, you're upside down. And nobody likes to lose money on a deal. And so wouldn't it be nice to be able to track that intelligently? And yes, we can do that as well. Of course, when you're doing that, we have one food distributor where they sell things by the case, but the product inside is by the pound, and they have a discount where they want to do a rebate by pound. We can convert the unit of measure in some of our calculations as well. We get asked about quantity breaks. If you buy a bunch of something, can we do volume or tiered pricing? Volume pricing is when you have different tiered levels. When you hit a certain threshold that, let's say 100 items is at a discounted value, all 100 items are at a discounted value. Tiered pricing is where, suppose you have breaks at 10 and 20 and you order 25 of something. Well, the first 10 get calculated at one price, the next 10 get calculated at another price, and then we add the price to the next 5 in those individual tiers, because different sets or tiers of prices get calculated for those items. And of course, it's always nice to round. We have obviously simple rounding to make sure that it's rounded to the correct currency, but we often get asked, hey, could we always make sure our prices end in $9.95? If you are a fan of Costco, for instance, whenever they discount something, if you're walking down the aisles, their discounted prices always end in 87 cents or 77 cents. We can round to the nearest nickel, round up the nearest 99 cents, round up, round down, kinds of things like that. And those are really effective. It is statistically proven again and again, when you have like something that costs ending in $9.99, that people think of it differently than if you round up to $10. So the 99-cent thing is a real valid thing when doing pricing. When you're calculating pricing, it's nice to start somewhere consistently and build from there. And in many ERP systems, you're limited at where you can start. We think you should start at whatever works for you, your list price, any one of the costs, your average cost, including landed costs. If you have landed costs calculated in your ERP system, we can certainly use that. Or you can generate your own price list in a price book and use that to calculate whatever you want to calculate. And people want to slice and dice things. They want to slice and dice in every manageable way. Most possible common with customers is your customer class. But if you want the zip code or something about their geography that you want, and if you had some kind of indicator like how much do we like this customer? I know in our CRM system, we have often talked about flagging customers that we like and those that we don't like, and we could offer certain pricing, special pricing incentives if we were doing that, or any other attribute that comes up on your mind. Likewise with items, let's slice those and dice those as well by category, flavor, model, feature, whatever you have about your item. If you want to group them and divvy them up, we can write calculations around those as well. We also have added the ability to, at the time of data entry, add some information that's called a document attribute. And this can be things like if you're a catalog company and you are shipping out catalog versions and somebody calls and says, hey, I want to buy this something from the catalog. Can you ask as a salesperson, can you read me the code off the back of the catalog so that we can assign the correct pricing that we're going to charge you? And you can put that code into the document itself, and that can be used in the pricing engine to understand what that price is. Certain coupon codes, or if you have special handling or any other custom attributes that want to drive your pricing, you can set those up as well. But wait, there's more. With our pricing engine, which I'll show in just a moment, you can also get the added benefit is that you can do commissions and all kinds of other incentives and spiffs. You can calculate taxes with our engine and track those as well. I don't know why you would want to do that, but if you had a special tax, because there's much better for tax engines, but we do have the ability there. Royalties, rebates, award programs, travel incentives, spiffs, kickbacks. If you wanted to track how much you're paying the mob to protect you if you live in some area of town that needs that, you can track it. And the cool part of all of these price adjustments, all of these discounts, promotions, and whatever is they all track to the general ledger. And so having the ability to have visibility to what you're accumulating, very good stuff. How does RPM work? RPM is a giant engine. It's this contraption machine. This is a graphic. This is not actually what the real thing looks like. But on the left-hand side, we put in things, the item, the currency, the customer, the date, basic stuff. Most often it's the date, the customer, the item. You spit it in the machine, it whirs and cranks along actually quite quickly, and it spits out a price. And with that price, it comes along those adjustments, those discounts, royalties, rebates, commissions, and anything else that you want to calculate along with it. And we pass it back to the ERP. And so there's some components there. We have a connector that's in Acumatica, a piece of software that makes sure the data entry goes smoothly. We then copy and host in a SQL database in RPM. We take copies of your customers, your items, your units of measures, and stuff like that. And then we have a web interface that sits on top of that. That web interface has security and lockdown so that you're making sure the right people are managing your pricing and seeing what your price lists are. And with that, you set up the rules and calculations. Then Acumatica will call the engine, the pricing engine, at the time that it needs a price, and it will spit it back along with any additional stuff that it needs to. And because of its architecture, it's easy to hook up to e-commerce and websites. And so we have quite a few deals going on with BigCommerce and other commerce sites as well. Here's just a quick screenshot. Here's a list of customers. Over on the left-hand side, you see ERP data. This is stuff from Acumatica. We import the customers, the items, the currencies, your GL accounts that you want to map to. We copy that information over, and then we set up special pricing rules. And here's an example of a price book. Your price book is like a catalog that you can have your starting prices from. And you can just put the item numbers and the prices there, manage those, import and export with Excel. Then we create price schedules. Price schedules are like price levels. They map to that. And this is a set of rules about where are we going to get it, the price source. Is it going to be from the list price, the costs, or we're going to use a price book? And then we add calculations such as we're going to take that base cost and add 65% gross margin to get, if it's a hardware item, for instance, and if they're a wholesale customer, we want to discount 10%. So there's all kinds of rules, filtering, calculations that go in. Lots of advanced feature. There's like 3 or 4 different ways to accomplish something, and we help with the implementation and figuring out the best and most efficient way to do that for you. But that's what RPM does in a nutshell. So if you've got these issues and you want to see more, come chat with us. We'd love to chat. This is our picture of our sales team. I am not in this picture, unfortunately, but boy, those are some hot looking people there. So you can reach out to us at this number or contact sales at Rockton Software. But that is RPM. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you. All right. So I'm just going to share my screen to go over some quick things. And then we'll, if you do have questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A now as I go through the last couple slides. So mark your calendars because we have a happy hour coming up at the end of this month. We always like to get together in a fun and enjoyable atmosphere and just chat about certain topics. So please feel free to join us. You can go on to the acu-connect events page and register there. And then, of course, we have our annual virtual event in September. So make sure you mark your 2-day. It's a 2-day virtual event, free for anybody to attend and get some great educational content. We have keynote speakers. It's a very good event. All right. And of course, I wouldn't be me without saying thank you to all of our sponsors of acu-connect. And we're excited that you guys participated. As you can see, Rockton and Netstock are on here. They've been longtime partners. Oops, sorry. With us. And then you can also follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter. So let's get to the Q&A. All right, I'm going to stop sharing because I can't really see everything when I do that. Okay, so our first question is, how many discounts, I believe this is for you, Mark, how many discounts can you apply at one time?
Great question. You can have unlimited discounts. And so unlike in Acumatica where you get one and only discount on a line, you can have an unlimited number, and they are all tracked individually in a sub ledger part, and you can adjust those as necessary. But if you want 1,000, you can have 1,000 or more.
Okay. And then I think this is for you, Tom. Do you need to be on the most current ERP version?
Oh, no, a good question. So no, so because we are a cloud delivered service, we are not actually connected to the ERP. We only connect briefly to upload data. So as long as we can map the data to whatever version you're on, there's no requirement to be on the most current release.
Awesome. Okay. And then, as I keep asking these questions from people, you just to mention, you can ask us in the chat if you do have any questions. Let us know, and we will continue asking those. Hold on one second. What is the cost of Rockton pricing management? I feel like everybody will want to know that.
Great. Our pricing is based on the tier of Acumatica that you're on. So when you start with a small, is at $599 a month, and it goes up from there based on the tier that you're on.
Okay. And does Netstock calculate safety stock and reorder point?
Yes, it does. And so that is probably one of the biggest challenges when you're trying to figure out what the proper stocking levels are, is when should you reorder an item and what is the minimum or safety stock you should be carrying. And in most ERPs, you can manually put those numbers in, but most of our customers tell us it's kind of a best guess. And if they don't guess right, that's the root cause of most overstocks or understocks. So we will dynamically recommend a safety stock based on the item's contribution. So that classification, we will recommend a safety stock based on the supplier performance against that lead time. And in doing so, then we will recommend a minimum stocking level and reorder points. So we'll calculate that. That's not something we read from the ERP data.
And Tom, does Netstock feed any data back into Acumatica?
Yes. So we pull a lot of data out of Acumatica. So what's in stock, what's on order, SKUs, pricing. But what we would recommend back to Acumatica would be then any recommended purchase orders, work orders, or transfer orders.
And Mark, is there an implementation training time frame? How long does it usually take to implement Rockton pricing management? You're on mute.
Thanks so much for catching that. We find that most customers need about a week to test things out if they want to test things out, which most do. And we find that most customers say, we just need a week, but usually they take about a month because they always get sidetracked with something. But it just takes a few days of looking at that. The actual implementation just takes a few hours. That's usually, however, spread over 2 or 3 days or so, just depending on how the speed at which the customer wants to implement. But it can be implemented rather quickly.
Awesome. All right. Well, that is all of the questions that we had. So again, thank you so much, Tom and Mark, for joining us for the acu-connect webinar this month. And again, everyone, thank you for being here. Stay tuned for the recording and feel free to register for a happy hour at the end of this month. So thanks all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Amy.
Have
Bye-bye.
a great day.